Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Manaswi Shetty, and I am the Human Resources Director of AUSMUN 2021. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here this morning. Thank you for joining, and we really hope that we help build a foundation for all the first timers here and really hone your skills in so that you're very well prepared for the main conference. Before we get started, we have a few videos we'd like to share with you. So just give me a minute as I share my screen with the videos. Hmm.
Hello, delegates. Welcome to the Delegate Training Workshop for AUSMUN 2021. My name is Aishwarya and I am the Secretary General for this year's conference. I hope you're all doing well and I hope this video finds you in good spirits. We know that the year 2020 has imposed so many unprecedented challenges on us. It's been difficult, it's been surprising, it's been unexpected. And while we're coping with all of these different challenges, AUSMUN 2021's board also had to come up with so many different contingency plans to make sure that this year's conference is just as amazing and great as every year's is. It is very important to us that we uphold the legacy that this conference holds, and to adapt to the situations, we have been striving very hard to present to you the quality of conference that you deserve. With that being said, I hope that this year's Delegate Training Workshop really appeals to you and helps you plan forth as you prepare for the conference. I hope that the lessons and questions that you get answered in this workshop allow you to prepare comprehensively to become a delegate at AUSMUN 2021. I hope that you are excited, you are all geared up for this year's conference, and I hope to see you there. Good luck and have a great workshop.
Thank you, Ashwarya, for your message. That was 100% motivating, I am sure. Um, Ashwarya, before we go ahead, is there anything you'd like to say? Anything else you'd like to tell the moderators? Anything else you'd like to tell the delegates before we get started?
Hi, Manasvi. It's so nice to see all of you here early in the morning. I know it's a weekend, but hey, what better way to spend a weekend than prepare for MUN, right? I hope all of you are excited for the workshop. I would advise you to please utilize this time effectively, ask any questions that you may have, clarify everything that you need to, because I'm certain that a lot of you may also have questions regarding how the virtual conference is going to be, right? How we're going to work on a virtual platform, how we're going to raise points. So get all of these questions answered. Utilize the space, don't be hesitant. This is the free space, so get all your questions answered. Ask as many questions as you can, because sometimes a question that you can think of might be something that would help someone else, right? We would also be having some mock sessions for you to practice online as well. So make sure to engage in those debates effectively, make sure to use your time wisely. And of course, if there's any questions that you have, feel free to get in touch with us anytime. Good luck, and I hope to see you all participate ardently.
All right, then I think we can get started with the rules and procedures for this year's conference. I am going to share my screen with the PowerPoint presentation. I advise everyone to take notes, but also you will have access to all of these resources. So do not worry if you miss out on anything. You have access to a delegate handbook, which is on the AUS website, as well as all the background guides for your particular committees, which are on the website as well. So please make sure to go to ausmun.com and click on the guides tab for this year, and you'll be able to find all the documents that are extremely relevant for the conference this year. All right, so, and we have started sharing. So before we begin with any and all rules of procedure, what exactly is MUN? as the name suggests, Model United Nations, it is a model or a mock or a simulation of the United Nations in which students role play as representatives of certain countries. So Al Zabi, our logistics director, has been working hard to allocate all of you into different countries. And that is probably something that you are aware of. And you might be having countries with you right now, or you will be having countries with you soon. So those countries are your identity now. You will be representing that country in the conference. I won't be Manaswi anymore. I would be I would be Africa, or I would be India. I would be United States of America. I would be United Kingdom, and that would become my identity. So you, as a country, have to embody the beliefs of the country. You have to represent those beliefs, represent their stance, and for that, you will have to do research as well, which is something that our research director Julia will be going into over today's session. So MUN is there. You're role playing as a country, and you're representing their stance. So that is what MUN is. You're fighting for a solution. You want to come up with a resolution that the whole world can adopt. Now, like any conference or any structured event, there is very specific rules of procedure for our conference as well. There are two main things that you have to know in MUN, and specifically AUSMUN, is points and motions. So those are two different things. We have a point and we have a motion. So what's the main difference between a point and a motion? It's that when you raise a point, it can interrupt another speaker, but a motion cannot interrupt another speaker, and a motion can only be raised when prompted by your moderators. So if the moderators say, are there any motions on the floor, only then can you raise a motion. However, a point, on the other hand, can be raised at any point of time whenever you require something. So here I will be going through a few of the examples of points for you. So please take note if you would like to know exactly what a point is used when, and we'll answer any questions regarding them as we go forward. So far, is everything clear? I hope everything's clear. If there are any questions, please drop them in the chat box. I have that open on the side so I can answer any of your questions. All right, so let's just go into each and every point. So first, we have point of personal privilege, which is the only interrupting point that we have. So at any point of time, regardless of what's going on in the committee, you can use point of personal privilege. It is raised by delegates, by you guys. If you're facing any sort of discomfort, in the sense, if you cannot hear something, if you cannot, if you're having internet issues in this case, or if you need to leave or turn your camera off, those are things that a point of personal privilege will be used for within this committee. We also would use point of personal privilege if you cannot hear a certain speaker, or they're breaking up and you really want to understand what they're saying. However, on Zoom, we have in your participants or your reactions tab, you will be able to see buttons such as yes, no, go slower, and go faster. So in the online conference, we would be using go slower and go faster as indications if needed. And if you can't hear them, then that would be raising a point of personal privilege by using the raise hand button on your participants or your reactions tab. So most of the MacBooks have a raise hand option, but the Windows PCs have, sorry, most of the MacBooks have all the options in the reactions tab, but Window PCs have it on the participants tab. So make sure to check both those places just to make sure if you have everything. All right. So a point of personal privilege also, it's clear it does not require voting because it's personal to you. If you're having a problem, you express it to the moderators and they try to fix it. All right. We have one question in the chat, which is rules and procedure for ICJ being totally different. Yeah, the rules and procedure for ICJ are different, and we will be having a mock session today separate for the ICJ committee. So we have one of the ICJ moderators and our research director joining you to do a mock session for ICJ. So you will be properly equipped with that if all the ICJ delegates are here. All right, I hope that was clear. The second point that we have here is a point of order. This is one of the most misused points, actually. It's used when to interrupt a speaker, it's used randomly, but what the point of order is that it has to be used when there's a by a delegate in case of an informational inaccuracy. So let's say the delegate of United States has stated something completely inaccurate about you as the delegate of United Kingdom. That is when the United Kingdom delegate would raise their hand and say, point of order, because that fact is incorrect. So, only if an informational inaccuracy occurs do you use a point of order. And you have to prove to the moderator that there is a factual inaccuracy and tell them, listen, based from this link, this is why they are wrong. And you can let them know. And it also does not require a vote. And another option where a point of order is raised is when the moderators make a procedural mistake. So do realize that there are our moderators are very well trained, but they might be slipping through the cracks sometimes under the pressure. It's very much possible, as you may understand as a delegate. So if that happens, you have the right to raise a point of order and let them know what they've done wrong, and they will be able to correct it. So those are the two situations in which a point of order can be raised. I hope that was clear. All right. Next, we have the point of parliamentary inquiry. This is when a delegate is unsure about something and they want to ask the moderators about what exactly is happening in a current situation. There are a lot of times, especially in my first few conferences, where I'm just sitting there and I do not know what's happening. And this point of parliamentary inquiry comes into like comes as a saving grace, because I can um, diplomatically ask the moderators what is going on. So that's what the parliamentary inquiry is used for. If you have a question to the dais, only to the dais this is addressed to. So if there's any question regarding rules of procedure, any question regarding literally anything that's happening in the committee and you don't know what's happening, this is your go-to point. So you raise a point of parliamentary inquiry and you ask, hey, I do not understand what's happened. The delegate of United States does not understand what is happening. Could the dais please clarify? So that's how you raise a point of parliamentary inquiry, and again, does not require a vote. All right. Point of information. Now, this is one of the most important points, just because this is the point where all the magic of the debate happens. This is where one delegate questions another delegate. So this can be after this is mostly after a general speakers list speech. So let's say a delegate has gone up and delegate has given a speech, and you have a question that you would like to ask them, and you want the answer to. That is a point of information. So the moderators usually go, are there any points of information on the floor? That is when you raise your hand, which obviously is a virtual hand this time around. The moderators will select you and you have to unmute your mic and raise your point and your question. Always make sure that this particular point is framed in a question format. Do not go into paragraphs, keep it concise. So make it very clear what your question is, and uh, that will impact the other delegate as well, and they will be able to answer your question very clearly. So over here, as mentioned on the slides, avoid rhetorical questions as much as possible. And yeah, that's pretty much it for point of information. Any questions so far? Please let me know in the chat box. And I just want to clarify that points of information is optional. So the delegate giving the speech has an option to either uh, either open to points of information or not. So that's a personal choice that is made. The points of order, do we use the reaction? 1 second. Okay, so for point of order, if you want to raise a point of order, there's a raise hand button, right? So you can click that and you will be able to raise your point of order. Okay. So I think a few people are asking about Arabic committees. It's the exact same procedures, but the terms will be different for sure. All the terms and the translations are on the delegate handbook on the Arabic Delegate Handbook. And today, during the mock sessions as well, we will be separating you into Arabic committee delegates with all the Arabic moderators and our Arabic deputy, so you will be able to properly go over it. Ward, you have missed a couple of points. Can I go over them briefly? So I just went over 4 points. So I went over point of personal privilege, I went over point of order, point of parliamentary inquiry, and point of information. So these are the four that you have missed if you missed all four. But the explanations are there on the delegate handbook, so you can go over it. I'll finish all the points and I'll do a quick review so you'll be able to understand what's going on. All right. Okay, so this is just a quick chart of all the points and motions that exist. So this is your go-to guide, and it is on the delegate handbook as well. So please go through the delegate handbook. Very, very important for your success in this conference. So I hope that was very clear for the points. If there's anything else you guys want to ask about the points, if something comes to your mind later on, please let me know in the chat box. Okay, so we will move on to motions now. All right. So motions are what set the procedure for the entire conference. Like the motions that you raise as a delegate define how the conference is going to flow. So the first motion that anyone would set is setting the agenda. So when the moderators ask, are there any motions on the floor? You get to set the agenda for the day. So you raise your placard. In this case, you raise your hand and you set the agenda because you have two topics in discussion, right? So you can choose which topic you want discussed. And after you choose your two topics, after you choose your state your one topic, someone else may raise another topic, and then you vote against vote, and the majority vote, simple majority vote gets the topic started first. So we have that. Then we also have opening the speakers list, which is the general speakers list. Majority of your first session, and today you will see in the mock session as well, will go with the general speakers list. So the general speakers list is essentially 1 minute or 1.5 minute speeches given by each and every delegate who wishes to be on the general speakers list. So it starts off with, after setting the agenda, the moderators will again ask, are there any motions on the floor? And that's when you open the general speakers list. And you get to set the speaking time, and you get to set the total speaking time and individual speaking time. So for example, it could be like the delegate of the United States of America would like to open the general speakers list for 15 minutes, for a total speaking time of 15 minutes and individual speaking time of 1 minute. So that's your entire motion. And then there'll be voting happening on if there are multiple motions in the committee. And the one with the majority vote again will be passed. After that, the moderators will ask you, all those wishing to be part of the general speakers list, please raise your hands now. And that's when you raise your hands, you will be added to the general speakers list. And then that's after everyone's added to the general speakers list is when the speeches start in the order that you've been added. So the person that raised the motion, that person has the option of either going first or last. So the moderator will ask you, hey, delegate of the United States of America, do you want to go first or do you want to go last? And you can choose. That's completely fine. If you go first, you get to set the tone for the rest of the conversations that are going to happen. But if you go last, you probably won't get a chance because someone might raise a different motion in the end. Yes, first motion, you want to see this slide. Okay, this one. This is motion to set the agenda. So when the moderators ask, are there any motions on the floor? As I mentioned, motion to set the agenda on so-and-so topic, followed by so-and-so topic. So the first topic goes first. All right. So we finished this one. Okay, so you've set the motion, you've opened a general speakers list, the general speakers list is going fine. What happens next, right? So at some point throughout the general speakers list, you may decide that there is something very specific that you need to discuss right now. And what you do now is you frame that sort of motion in your head, you frame the subtopic and keep it ready in your head. When you do that, after you do that, there's a point of time where the moderators may ask, are there any motions on the floor between the general speakers list? And moderators are usually advised to ask this between after every three general speakers list speeches. So if people want to raise motions, they can do that. So they, when they ask for that, you have the right to raise a moderated caucus. Now, what is a moderated caucus, right? So a moderated caucus is a focused debate on a subtopic from the main topic. So it's like a branch from the main topic. You pick that out and you really focus on that, and you try to find solutions for that. You're trying to find the problem in that. So that's what a moderated caucus is. So I can give you an example. Let's say we are talking about UNODC, right? United Nations Organization of Drugs and Crime. So let's say the topic is human trafficking and drug trafficking. That's the overall umbrella topic. The moderated caucus topic could be something like, um, this is how we would phrase the motion. The delegate would like to raise a motion for a moderated caucus for 10 minutes on the topic, solutions for uh, drug trafficking from a refugee perspective. So see you see how specific it is. So you take a subtopic from that, or you could say, talking about the drug crisis in North in Asia. So that could be like one specific topic for the moderated caucus. That's just a suggestion from me. There are very creative moderated caucus topics that people have come up with, and I'm hoping that you guys are ready for that as well. So you raise a motion like that. You say the delegate would like to raise a motion for so and so moderated caucus topic for a total time of 10 minutes and individual speaking time of 45 seconds or 1 minute. Like that's up to you, whatever you want to raise. But maximum, try to keep it as 1 minute. 45 seconds to 1 minute is recommended. And the person that has raised the motion, in the if when the motion passes, they start off with the 45-second speech, and they explain, this is why I've chosen this topic and this is why it's important to discuss it. We have to discuss this because so and so is happening somewhere. You do that whole thing for as a first speaker. And then one by one, people will be raising their hands, and the chairs moderators will recognize them, and you'll keep going on in that fashion. um, Even between a moderated caucus, the moderators will be asking, are there any other motions on the floor in between? So you could start off with, you could either start another moderated caucus. You could either go back to the general speakers list, or you can start an unmoderated caucus for a to form blocks and become a yeah to form a block to do the draft resolution. Can I use the term I when I'm mentioning myself, or should I say the delegate of? And I can even see answers, like three answers. So this is great. All of you know what you're doing. You have to always use the delegate of. There are situations where you might slip off, but that's okay, because the moderators will correct you. And when they correct you, you will fall into the habit of always using the delegate of. Um, I myself, I have been doing MUN since I was in grade 9, and now I'm in my third year of university. There are times that I slip off and I say I, and then I immediately correct myself. So as long as you have that realization to correct yourself immediately, it is not a problem at all. So you have to always say the delegate of so and so. Yep. Okay. Cool. Wait, I seem to have moved up. All right. So this is motion for a moderated caucus, and we finished this slide. So we'll move on to the next one. Yes, as I mentioned, within the three options, the third option is a motion for an unmoderated caucus. Now, an unmoderated caucus, as I mentioned, is to form blocks within your committee. Blocks are just other countries that you resonate with, other countries who your policies are aligned with, and you guys can come up with a solution together. So you will be using this unmoderated caucus as a networking session with the countries and forming a group so that you guys can draft your resolution, which is the ultimate purpose of this entire conference, coming up with creative solutions. So this time around, we will be doing this online, of course, on Zoom. Every committee will have its own Zoom session running, and the moderators and the pagers will be there to put you all into breakout rooms throughout the entire session. So for unmoderated caucuses, you can keep texting the moderators about who you want where, and get ready for a block formation. So, but while raising the motion itself, it requires a simple majority to pass. And you also need to mention the total duration of the unmoderated caucus. So normally people will be like, um, motion to motion to open an unmoderated caucus for 15 minutes to discuss draft resolutions. And then the moderators will ask, are there any other motions on the floor? Someone may raise a different timing, or someone may raise a moderated caucus, and then we'll go for voting. And the one that has the most votes wins. All right, so that's a motion for an unmoderated caucus. Then we have the motion to suspend the meeting. So this is raised at the end of each session. So if you take a look at the structure of the conference, you will notice that we have 6 sessions. So the motion to suspend the meeting throughout our conference will be raised 6 times. So every day, every 2 hours at the end of the session, someone will raise, maybe 2 minutes before or 5 minutes before, someone will raise a motion to suspend the meeting. And that just requires a very simple majority to pass, and you'll move on to end the meeting, take a break, and then come back where you'll do roll call again. Motion to adjourn the meeting will be only done once throughout the entire conference. That is to absolutely end the meeting. So to end the conference, actually. So after the two topics have been discussed, you adjourn the meeting, and then you go into um, normally a confession session. We are planning for that as well, to make sure that that essence of the MUN conference is still there. Yes, Lillian, about the general speakers list. Okay, so the general speakers list is a list of speakers of all the countries. So that's one of the first motions that someone may raise, motion to open the general speakers list, which is just countries that want to be on the list get added to the list by the raise hand option, and you speak for a minute or 45 seconds, whatever the time that is set, and you establish your stance on the topic at hand. So as a country, you go there and say, the delegate of the United States believes that this is very important, and this is why we need to fight for it, and we want to do so and so to help this. So it's all about your stance towards the topic. That's what you do in the general speakers list. After your particular general speakers list is over, and if you have some extra time left in your speech, the moderators will ask you, how would you like to yield your time? When they ask you about how would you like to yield your time, you can either say you'd like to yield it back to the moderators, which is just giving them the time and going back to your seat, or you could either yield for points of information. So that is when another delegate can ask you a question. Okay, so I hope that was clear in terms of the general speakers list. All right, let me move forward to voting procedure. So closes debates on the topic at hand and moves the committee into voting procedure on the resolutions. So Julia will be going more into like proper detail into voting procedure for this, for resolutions as such. But for normal voting, when the moderators ask, all those against, you raise your hand if you're against it. All those for, you raise your hand if you're for it. So that's the very simple voting procedure for this. But for the resolutions as such, Julia, our research director, will be going into it. I went up. Okay, yes. So this is motion to move back to the general speakers list. At any point of time, you think the moderated caucuses are dragging out, it's not being productive, or you just really feel like there's something you can say in the general speakers list. If the moderators ask you, are there any motions on the floor, you have the option to move back to the general speakers list, and it will resume exactly where the list had stopped. So let's say like 10 countries spoke and the last country is United States of America, and there are 10 more countries left on the list. So it will start from United States of America onwards and continue until another motion is raised. All right. So that is it for the motions. This is a little chart that will help you out. Again, it's on the delegate training handbook. So you'll be able to have this as a guide in front of you all the time to understand what needs what votes and does one even need vote. I don't know this by heart myself, even though I've been doing it for a year, and that's why the delegate handbook comes into a it's like extremely important because I always have it open on a tab. So if I ever need to check anything, control F, find it. So control F will be your blessing this time. Yeah, that is it for motions. Okay, so this the concept of yielding is used sometimes, but not that often. But I've used it myself, and it's quite useful if you know that someone is your ally in the committee. So as I mentioned before, you have two options to yield your time, right? I mentioned you could yield to the chair, or you could yield it to questions. Can one of the co-hosts just go on to the AUSMUN website find, and send the link for the delegate handbook, just in case no one has it? All right. So people, Salim, someone will be sending it to you. Yes, Ash is here to send it to you. Awesome. So two options are chair or questions, right? Questions are the points of information. The third option is yielding your time to another delegate. What that does is if you have, let's say, 15 seconds, you can, as a United States of America, I can say, I would like to yield my time over to Russia. And Russia has 15 seconds now to either back me up and really just continue my speech and say something important. And you can base what you do here is you portray yourself as allies. So that's what yielding is. You can yield your time to another delegate, and they only get to do to talk for that particular time that's left. How does one to know who's on whose side? So normally, as I've noticed, the yielding the time to the other delegate is always done in when resolutions are being discussed, right? So it's advised to do it then, just because you've already worked on a resolution together, so you know they're on your side. So if you're tongue twisted about something, or you really cannot are not able to talk about something, you can just yield your time to another delegate, and they can take care of it for you if they're ready and if they're confident and if you're confident in them. So that's that. And also it's possible that in the general speakers list, and even the moderated caucus, what happens is some delegates clearly show support to you. So there's people say things like, I agree with what was mentioned by the delegate of United States. I would like to support them. I stand them, and they say things like that. So that's when you know that they support your point. So if you ever feel like you need to do that and they're ready to take your time, you're allowed to yield it to them. They also have the option of not taking the time. So yeah, that is it for yielding. Okay, and I'd just like to make one more thing clear, which I forgot to mention, is if you yield your time to the chair, if the chair feels like it, either they'll just take the time and send you back, or they might ask you a question. So do note that the moderators are heavily experienced and they've done a lot of research on your topic. So they will ask some very specific and targeted questions based on what you've said in your speeches. Or the chair also has the right to yield it back to points of information, and people can ask points of information. So that's just something, um, a little bit of knowledge that you should be equipped with, that the moderators can ask you questions. How do we write our resolutions? How will we make groups to make resolutions during online meetings? Okay, this Julia will be talking about how to make resolutions. We of course will be using all kinds of online tools, and we'll send you a whole guide on exactly how to make groups and all of that. Don't worry about it. Yep. So my part is coming to an end pretty much, but I'm just going to do a quick review of everything with a sample session of the flow. So we have the first thing when you enter, you will be just introducing yourself. The moderators will be trying to break the ice and really get to know everyone. After that, when you move into formal session, the first thing that will happen with the pages is they'll be taking roll call. So roll call will be taken at the beginning of every session. So it will be taken 6 times during the conference, right? And you have the option of saying present or present in voting. When you say present, only present, you are not obligated to vote. But if you say present in voting, you are obligated to vote at every point of time. Are we supposed to make groups with the same country? Sana, no, you don't have, you are not supposed to make groups with the same country because that's not possible. In every committee, there's only one representative of a country. So you have to make groups with countries that align with your beliefs, that you think will support you, based on the conversations that have been happening in the moderated and unmoderated caucuses. All right. So, yeah, that is it. Political allies. Actually, that's a very good term. Thank you for that. So, after roll call, which will be at the beginning of every session, you set the agenda on the first day. That is between the two topics. We discuss that motion. If anyone wants to, while I'm speaking, if I bring up a point or a motion, just see if you can frame the motion onto the chat, and I'll just take a look at what you're saying. So how do you set the agenda for the day? If anyone wants to take a shot at that, please go ahead and drop it in the chat box. So you set the agenda for the day, and then you open the general speakers list. If anyone wants to take a shot at opening the general speakers list via text as well, go ahead and do that. After you open the general speakers list, it's happening, it's going on, it's happening. Moderators ask, are there any other motions on the floor? Then you may raise a moderated caucus. So usually I've seen that we always do like one moderated caucus on the first session, like a really short one. But if there's no time or the general speakers list goes on for a longer time, then we'll just open a moderated caucus on the second day. So after that, we open an unmoderated caucus in which you form the groups that you have to form. Don't worry about exactly the technicalities of forming those groups. Your moderators will let you know how to do that. Um, After the unmoderated caucus is formed and you guys are discussing, this is the solution, this is the answer to everything that's going wrong in the world, you have to actually draft your resolution, right? In the delegate handbook, you will see the format for everything, and Julia will be taking you through that now. And on day seven, sorry, in the last session, the last point of each agenda is to present the resolution. So you present the resolution. There's a different way that you have to present the resolution. When are we going to start the event? I'm so sorry, but which event are you referring to? And the delegate of so and so would like to set the agenda of the day as so and so. Yes, that is perfect, Carla. Thank you. Mariam, just let me. Okay, so the MUN is February 25th to 27th. So it's a 3-day conference. Will the meeting be held on Teams or Zoom? It will be, so far we are having everything on Zoom as it will be discussed with you in the mock sessions as well. So you'll get to try it out. If there's a change, we will let you know. Wait, someone asked this works, right? What works? Sorry, I'm not able to see the above chat. Okay, the delegate of Dash would like to open a moderated caucus on the topic of Dash for individual speaking time of 1 minute and total speaking time of 15 minutes. That is perfect, actually. That is the clearest moderated caucus motion I have seen. Great job. What timing for the MUN? Again, please check out the delegate handbook. The entire schedule is there with the exact timings for the sessions, which is a tentative schedule. Where can we find this presentation? After today's training session is over, it will be uploaded on the website for you to refer to. Regardless, all this information is already there on the delegate handbook. When will we get our topics? Al-Zabi, is this something that you can answer?
To be honest, I'm not sure if, well, the topics are actually on the website. So I've sent all of the delegates their assigned committee and country or NGO, of course. And the topics can be found on the website based on the assigned country and topics. And so I will just send in the link. Yes, exactly. The topics are under each committee. I'll just send in the link of the website right now in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Aljabi. So for the position paper, yes, deadline for the position paper is 20th February. Thank you, Bara, for typing that in capitals. That is literally my mood when I think about it. But Julia will now be talking to you about resolution and position papers in detail. So any questions regarding format, she will be there to clear for you. Yes. Thank you, Zabi. I'm just checking if there's any other questions before handing it over to um, Julia. What if I attack a country that I didn't know was my ally? Then I guess they become your enemy for this particular conference. But you can make peace with them in the unmoderated caucus and maybe find common ground. It's all about negotiation, it's all about talking to people and convincing them. And maybe when you do your first attack, if you talk to them later or you give a speech later, you could formally even apologize or you could formally present yourself as an ally. Like there's different strategies that you can use to really reposition yourself. Mm. Whoa, okay. What did you mean by emotion? Did I say emotion anywhere or is it on the chat? Oh, emotion. It's not emotion, it's emotion. So the motions that I discussed above, the 5, 6 motions that I discussed above, that's what I am referred to, not emotion. Are there ways to convince the other person? There are always ways to convince another person. So you really have to put down your facts. You really have to show your research and show that you're well prepared and ready and pose yourself as an ally. So that's what you could do. So are we going to make a brief research about enemies and allies too? Yes, great point, Mariam. That is something you should do. You should look into other countries in your committee as well to get an idea about their stance. So you would be able to meet with them. You'd be able to talk to them. Great. That's a great strategy, actually. All right. So if does anyone have any final questions? Julia, I hope you're ready. Okay, Sana says no. If there are any questions, of course, feel free to drop them in at any point. Julia, would you like me to stop sharing my screen and would you take over? You're muted, sorry.
Manasvi, continue sharing. I think you can because otherwise it's going to take time switching. So I would just say,
Okay.
I would ask you to switch.
Awesome. Just let me know when you want me to share this change and I'll do that. Great.
All right. So hello, everybody, and thank you, Manasvi, for explaining the flow of committee. Oh, do all the same rules. Manasvi, you want to take this one?
1 second. Sorry.
Do all the same rules of procedure apply for the Security Council?
Do all the same rules of procedure? Okay, so pretty much yes, but if there are any tweaks, the moderators will let you know. There's very few differences between Security Council. Normally, in the actual UN, there is complete differences, but at AUSM UN, we don't completely change it to allow for consistency. There's one more thing about someone fighting someone. How do you know if they're your enemy when they start fighting with you? Yeah, that's a great. I mean, that's a great indication of, yeah, it's a debate. Okay, I like this bunch. All right, so we have Julia here, and I think Julia, first introduce yourself, I think talk to them about MUN, and then just go ahead.
All right, so hello, everybody. I'm Julia. I'm the Director of Research. And Manasvi, and so far Manasvi has covered the flow of committee, all the points and motions. And now I'm going to be taking up the second part of this session, which is with regards to resolutions, amendments, and the background guide. So resolutions, amendments, and the position paper. Sorry, my bad. So Manasvi, if you could move on to resolutions. All right. Okay, so what is a resolution paper? The delegate handbook has a sample resolution at the end, so I encourage you to take a look at that. And if you want, maybe even open it side by side so you know what I'm talking about, because I believe we don't have a picture of the resolutions in this PowerPoint, but if you go to the delegate handbook and the appendix, it's there. And I encourage you to, if you want, open it side by side so that if any questions pop up, you can ask it right now. I'll be moving into the position paper, don't worry. After resolutions come position paper, don't worry. So resolution is a draft resolution is basically a document which has actions that would be taken in consideration of the debate that has happened so far. So during the moderated caucuses and the GSL, you would be discussing the issue, you would be debating back and forth about what should be done, what shouldn't be done, what's the root cause, how to avoid this, how to avoid that. And resolution is where you are going to formally frame the solutions, the answers that you have in mind. Now, terms used in a resolution paper. So main submitters. Okay, so every resolution has main submitters, co-submitters, and then signatories. So main submitters, I believe you cannot have more than 2. And co-submitters, let me just check what the specific, okay, so the specific limits are also written in the delegate handbook, just as a side note. So main submitters, you cannot have more than 2 for a particular resolution. And co-submitters, I believe, Manasvi, if you want to pop the number on chat, but I don't think there's a specific limit. I think there's about, I'm going to say if you could put the specific number of for co-submitters limit, that would be great.
Yes, I will do that. I will actually drop a document into the chat so people can take a look.
Yep, so the specifics are all there in the delegate handbook as with regards to the maximum number. Oh, judges in ICJ. Okay, so that's a good question. I will point that, Uday, Karan, can you just remind me when I go to the position papers? So that right now I'm just going to cover resolutions. Just remind me again when we go to position papers, and then I'll mention the difference. Okay, so resolution has main submitters, co-submitters, then signatories/sponsors. So main submitters and co-submitters, there are specific limits as to the number that you can have for a resolution, but signatories/sponsors, you can have as many as you want. And then once the resolution is presented, so let's say Manasvi talked about blocks, right? So every committee would have approximately 2 or maybe say 3 blocks. Which are like groups of countries, and then every block is going to come up with a resolution. Let's say one block has drafted them resolution during the unmoderated caucus, and they presented it. Great. And now the chairs are going to ask whether there are any amendments. What are amendments? These are, I will be explaining them again later on in the next slide as well, but these are basically changes that you want to propose to the resolution. So amendments can be amending a specific clause. It can be about removing a clause entirely, or it can be about adding a subclause to what is existing. So these are all possible ways you can come up with amendments. Now, a resolution, so if you would go to the doc, which Manasvi sent on chat, it's if you scroll above, it's there. So I encourage you to open that on the side if you can, so that you know what I'm talking about. A resolution has it can be divided into 2 segments. Preambulatory, it's written perambulatory. Preambulatory clauses and operative clauses. Now, preambulatory clauses are basically those which are with regards to previous actions. So in here, for instance, if you were to open the draft resolution, so I'm going to open that up right now myself. And I'm going to read out a sample clause. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so for instance, in this one, An example of the preambulatory clause would be recalling the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and United Nations Convention to combat transnational organized crime. So if you notice this entire sentence, it's talking about something that's been already done. And that's the key difference. Whereas in the operative clauses, if I were to go to, hold on. Okay. So if I were to go to an example for the operative clause, it shows, for instance, hold on. Okay, so, okay, a good example would be calls upon all countries to recognize and tackle the major contributing issue of poverty to eradicate human trafficking. So remember, the first one was recalling the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Operative clause, an example would be calls upon all countries. So you notice that this one relates more to taking action. So to taking a specific course of action based on the debate that you've had. And that's the key difference between the two. The other thing that I would like to note is that there are specific phrases that you use for preambulatory clauses and operative clauses. Again, if you go to the delegate handbook, in the appendix, there's a whole list of phrases do you see the first word that you use in the beginning of every operative and every preambulatory clause? That there are only a specific range of words that you can use. So you could either look at past resolutions for ideas, or again, delegate handbook in the appendix, there's a whole list of words that you can use so that you don't have to waste too much time thinking. I'm just gonna stop. Any questions so far with regards to resolutions? Okay. Okay, I believe max of 2 papers, not sure if it is the same for this year. Are you talking with regards to resolution, max 2 resolutions? Jude? No, right now it's just resolutions. I'm gonna go to the position paper after this. So I'm just gonna, hold on. I'm gonna go to the position paper after this. Right now, I'm just asking about questions with regards to the resolution. Okay. Does every country have to write their own resolutions, or would be there 2 to 3 main resolutions in the committee and everyone else becomes submitters, signatories, or sponsors? The second option. So not every country would write a resolution in the committee, because that would mean, for instance, if you have 20 delegates, that would be 20 resolutions, and that doesn't work. And so that mostly it's just 2, sometimes goes up to 3. I've seen instances of 4 resolutions, but that's very, very rare. Usually it's about 2 to 3 main resolutions in the committee. And yeah, it follows the same structure that I just mentioned. So there would be a couple of people who are main submitters and co-submitters, and then the rest, everyone can be signatories. Moen, can you tell me exactly where you're lost? Okay, let me see. For the resolution, how will we team up? Okay, so Manasvi earlier talked about looking out for allies. So this is where this is the part that really applies. You would be looking at the speeches that other delegates prepare. So that's one way that you will get to know, okay, who is agreeing with you, who is with your own line of views, and who's disagreeing with you. So pay attention to other people while they're speaking baseline model. That's one way you get a sense of who you can pair up with. Then the other thing is you may want to consider political history at least a little bit. So for instance, it would be kind of unusual to find US and let's say China or Russia in the same block. Because their views differ in a wide variety of topics, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to be in the same block, you know. So you may want to consider politics, history a bit as well. So Bara, I hope I answered your question. Okay, how will we talk to each other without cutting out each other? to write resolutions. Okay, so you'll be in your breakout rooms. I mean, it would go, okay, so in the breakout rooms, obviously it's not going to be as large as the committee. It's going to be organized into smaller groups. And so it would, I mean, I can't predict exact numbers right now, but it wouldn't be a lot of people. And so, and I guess cutting over each other, talking over each other, it works just the same as you would if it were in person. You know, you just need to make your voice be heard. If you feel like, you know, like people are not listening to you, you know, you just need to feel, make your voice be heard. Like specific to an online conference, you know, unmute yourself, make sure you raise points, just as you would be in person, you know, like try to propose good viewpoints so that people will listen to you. Hold on. I'm just gonna scroll up. Bara, do you have any remaining questions? Can we make a WhatsApp group? Manasvi, can you put on chat if communication through WhatsApp groups is allowed?
Hi everyone. WhatsApp group will not be encouraged, but there's another platform that we'll be giving you access to. We're just working on the back end for it, in which you will be able to form groups and little channels. So we'll make sure that you have that that sort of communication channel established for the entire conference. You'll have a specific platform you'll have to download for those 3 days. We'll send you a detailed guide regarding that.
Okay. What is the maximum limit of number of authors of resolution? It's there in the handbook. So main submitters, I believe, no more than 2. And co-submitters, let me just check the handbook. You could have, okay, so you could have quite a number. So an exact limit is not specified, but I wouldn't believe you would have more than 4 co-submitters. I haven't seen a resolution with more than that, honestly. But yeah, 2 main submitters, I think maybe 4, up to 4 or 3 co-submitters, and then the rest of the people can become signatories. Okay, what is the exact point of the resolution and how does it really help? Okay, let me just check other questions. All right. So, okay, so Moen, point of the resolution is basically to, so during the debate, you're just going back and forth about what should be done, right? So that's the main point of the MUN conference, is to discuss problems, to discuss issues, and see if we can come up with better solutions than those policymakers out there. Maybe not better, but if we can come up with different viewpoints and better solutions than what's really existing. And that's what you try to put down in a resolution. So those answers that you have in mind about what should be done for this, what kind of issues are arising and what should be done about that, all of that you put into a resolution in formal language. It's in a nutshell, that's what a resolution does. It's answers to your issue in a formal language. Ian, I hope I answer your question. Moen, I hope I answer your question. Okay. Unmoderated caucuses. Okay, breakout rooms, basically. All right, okay, good morning. Jude, unmoderated caucuses would be done. So during the mock session, you will get a feel of how things are going on. So I encourage you to attend the mock session, and that'll give you a better understanding of how things work on Zoom. Choosing groups, you'll have to get in touch with your moderators. So your moderators will be guiding you throughout the process, and you have to message with your moderators to let them know which group you want to be in. Allies, again, pay attention to people's speeches. See who's agreeing with you, who's disagreeing with you. I think Manasvi gave an example of, for instance, sometimes a delegate may just explicitly just mention, I agree with so-and-so delegate, and I would like to add on. You know, sometimes it becomes really clear people who are, yes, exactly, like Maz just said, if they attack you, they're not your friend. Maybe not, not everything applies 100% of the time. But yeah, usually that's the question, that's the rule of thumb you want to keep in mind. How does one talk about a specific committee? do we mention what committee we want to talk about? I didn't understand. So you would have been assigned a committee by now. If like, I'm 100% sure you would have been assigned a committee by now. And that's that committee and the topics is what you would be following for the conference. Moin, okay. Okay, so Jude is asking about private, like private chats. So in MUN, you have something such as notes, but it's gonna be hard. And usually what happens is those notes pass through either the pages or the chairs before they reach another delegate. Like one delegate will pass a note, but it goes through a page or a chair. But in the online platform, that's going to be really, really difficult. And so I guess we are refraining away from private back and forth messaging because it's going to be chaotic. And we don't know what could go on, you know.
So we will be like the option to privately text the your members will be available, but if it goes off track, we will quickly turn it off. However, we will be opening a different platform. It's called Slack, and you will have contacts with everyone. We'll be sending you links to join that platform, which is just it's a professional platform for groups and channels to form. So you will be able to contact your fellow members from in that Slack platform as well, and you'll be able to form your blocks. So this will be moderated completely, like the chats and the conversations will be completely moderated by either your moderators or the rest of the executive board team. So nothing will be exactly private as such. And yes, I think right now itself I am in half formals, so very excited for the combinations that are going to come through. I would really encourage everyone to keep the chats today limited only to questions regarding what either me or Julia are speaking about, simply because a lot of questions may be getting lost in the chat with other conversations happening. So please refrain from using the chat for general conversation. If it goes too much, I will have to turn the chat off. So yeah, thank you. Is there any way to show support for a point raised by a fellow delegate? Okay, so this is referring back to my part, right? So that is just you show support by voting for their point. So when they ask for votes, when the moderator asks for votes, you vote for their point. Oh, wait, sorry, that's a point. There's no voting. So you can't really show support to the point. Sorry. Who do we send the position? Okay, Julia will take care of that.
Okay. So I think we've spent enough time on the resolutions, and I'm gonna move on to okay, so we also have amendments to cover. So all right, I'm gonna go to amendments. So amendments, the resolution paper will be written during the unmoderated caucuses. So these are informal sessions where the debate, like no formal debate would take place, but you'll be sent out to your breakout rooms. And there you can chat with your other delegates, chat with your allies, your other delegates, and you guys would probably work on a common Google Doc for the resolution. Unmoderated caucuses, well, I think Manasvi gave an example of one that's 15 minutes long. At the longest I've seen is 1 hour, but usually it doesn't. Usually it's 30 minutes is a standard. 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna go into amendments. I'm gonna just refrain from looking at the chat for a while so that I can get through amendments and then come back. So just pause your questions for a bit. Okay, so amendments are basically changes submitted to a resolution after it has been approved by the dais. So once the resolutions have been done, once the main submitters and co-submitters are done, or like once the people who drafted the resolution are done presenting, basically, chairs will ask whether there has been any, whether are there any amendments. And now amendments can be friendly or unfriendly. So friendly amendments are basically amendments which are in agreement with the overarching, with what the main submitters and co-submitters, or with what all the sponsors agree on. So for instance, if I were to give an example of a friendly amendment, these are usually addition of subclauses, because you're not changing anything which of what the block has come up with, but you just want to add on. These are usually friendly, so you want to keep that in mind. And the sponsors tend to agree on the amendment, so in that case, you don't need voting. It just passes and the amendment gets edited into the document, to the draft resolution. If one of the sponsors is not present, it automatically becomes, so if one of the sponsors is not present while presenting the resolution, or one of them do not agree to the amendment, then it automatically becomes unfriendly. Now, what's an unfriendly amendment? Sponsors are not unanimously in favor of the amendment. And in that case, there will be pro and con speeches for and against the amendment, followed by voting procedure on whether all those in favor of passing this, in favor of this amendment, please raise your placards. All those not in favor. So same, pro and con speeches followed by voting procedure. And that's just simply it for amendments. Once all amendments are done with, you will vote on the resolution as a whole. So that's the same motion and voting procedure that Manasvi had talked about earlier. Dais is basically the moderators, your chairs. All right, so, okay, so if you guys don't have any questions about amendments and resolutions, we can come back to, you're encouraged to turn on cameras. Yes, you have to turn on your cameras during the conference. Because during an actual conference, you will have to show your faces. Okay, so now I hope I answered the questions. Okay, so we have spent enough time on resolutions and amendments. So now I'm going to get to one of the juicy bits of this presentation. Oh, voting procedure. So forgot, after that, we'll move on to position papers. Is it specifically that the sponsors have to agree with the amendment, or does it include the writers? Manasvi, do you want to take that one? Because in my opinion, I think it's the main submitters and co-submitters that have to agree, right?
Hello. Okay, wait, where's my camera? I am lost. Okay. So is it specifically the sponsors that have to agree with the amendment, or does it include the writers as well? So if it's it's a cohesive decision. So the co-submitters and the submitters, those are the ones that that have to agree. Wait, let me go up and show you the rules. Where's the resolution slide again?
Basically, you would have a whole bunch of sponsors. I think all of them do not need to agree, but the main submitters and co-submitters, they have to agree.
So these guys and these guys. So you guys do a eye contact thing, or you just talk, because this is a chat based system this year around, and you agree whether you want to make it a friendly or an unfriendly amendment.
Okay, as delegates, do we get to speak every round, or only when we are called out? So you'll be recognized by the chairs, then you speak. Okay, position papers, cameras. There may be friendly. I mean, there's no restriction per se. So you could have, I mean, UNSC could have friendly amendments. It could also have unfriendly amendments. You don't have to emulate exactly what the UN follows. You could have unfriendly or friendly amendments in a UNSC resolution, if that's what you're meaning. Okay, so, okay, all right. So how does voting work at MUN? You have procedural votes, and then you have substantial votes. So substantive votes. Substantial votes shall be considered those referring to resolutions, amendments, or their parts. During substantial votes, delegates can either vote in favor, against, or they can abstain. So do you remember on the first day, or rather, I think at the beginning of every day, you'll have a roll call, right? And the chairs will ask you, please state whether you're present or present and voting. If you say present, that means you cannot vote on the resolution, so you'll have to abstain. And that's where, so that's what you want to keep in mind. Usually people, almost always, 99.9% of the time, you will always say, I'm present and voting, so that you'd be able to vote on the resolutions as well. Okay, so what's the difference between present and voting during roll call? So that's what I just explained. Present and voting cannot abstain during substantial vote. So basically, if you're present and voting, you'll have to vote on the resolution. You'll have to, you don't have a choice. You have to vote on the resolution for or against. Present means you have an option of abstaining. Simple majority. No one can abstain from voting during procedure votes. I said that. So procedural votes are those basically, for example, motion to suspend the meeting, motions for moderated caucuses, things like that. All of those relate to procedures. So that's the key word, procedures. So those that relate to procedures, for instance, GSL, not GSL, moderated caucuses, etc. Moderated or unmoderated caucuses, those relate to procedure, and so you shouldn't abstain from voting. A simple majority, I think majority of our motions are simple majority. I cannot find an example of a 2/3, but almost all of them require simple majority. What's a simple majority in a committee? Half of the number of delegates that day plus one. That's a simple majority. And 2/3, I don't think we have any motions per se, at least not any important motion which requires a 2/3 majority. So it's okay if you don't keep that in mind, but this is just there for general information. And I think that's that for voting. Is it present in voting? Present and voting. Yeah, is there a mistake on this slide? Okay, it's present and voting. I said present and voting.
The slide is correct. The slide is correct.
Yeah, the slide is correct.
Yes.
All right. So any specific questions with regards to voting? If not, I'm going to move on to position papers. To speak or forever hold
I
it.
think Asma asks the question, what if there's a tie? So normally what happens if there's a tie is they call for voting again and they see if anyone has changed their vote. The moderator will also ask why they decided to change their vote, so they will have to explain that over there if it's a very obvious situation. But most of the time, at least one vote is off balance, so don't worry. Yeah.
Okay, so if you say present and voting, that means okay, so for every, so you all, it's not that chairs will present all resolutions and then you vote for the one you choose. It doesn't work that way. Chairs will, not the chairs, the main submitters, co-submitters, basically the people who wrote the resolution. So one resolution is going to be presented, then you have to vote for or against that particular resolution if you chose present and voting. Now, if you chose just present, you have the ability to abstain. So yeah, there's that. I hope I answered your question, Moin. Okay. All right. What do we certainly vote on or for? So it says here that you cannot, so it's written here that you cannot refrain from procedure votes. So anything that is not substantive, considered a procedure. And substantial votes are those pertaining to resolutions, amendments, or other parts. So anything else you can consider it as procedural, if that makes sense. All right, so present and voting, okay. Okay. All right, so I think that's it for voting, resolutions, and amendments. If any questions pop up even while I'm explaining the position paper, don't worry, we have a Q&A session in the end where you can go back to things that you didn't quite get, and we'll answer all of your questions. Okay, so Manasvi, let's move on to position papers.
I feel like there needs to be some sort of build up to this because everyone's been waiting for position paper, asking so many questions for the position paper, and I'm very tempted to not change the slide, you guys. Should I
Change.
I'll just leave you guys
Fine.
hanging. We'll close the session and say no position paper. No, just go ahead. Here you go.
All right, drum roll or no drum roll. Okay, position papers. So what exactly is a position paper? It is, as its name suggests, it officially states your country's position on a particular topic. And what it intends to do is it helps the chairs decide whether a delegate is well researched. And it also helps the moderators to understand the general flow of the debate that's there. But most importantly, it does the two things. It does the first two things, which is it helps you define your views on a topic. So as you're writing your position paper, not only are you putting it in writing, but you also develop an understanding of where you stand on a particular issue. And the other thing that it does is when you send your position papers to your chairs, they're going to sit and read through it, and they can figure out whether you are a well-researched delegate or are you just somebody who's making up facts on the go and not doing any research and just putting in things that are incorrect. That's the general gist of a position paper. Okay, ICJ judge. Okay, so judges don't have to write anything in particular. I'm just going to go refer to a document that I have. But ICJ, if I haven't mistaken, there is something called memorandums, which are written by the ICJ council. So the councils are required to write something called a memorandum, sample memorandum. Okay, so we will be sending you, so I guess not everybody who's here today is an ICJ, so, but we will send you a sample, or we will try to upload one on the website soon, if that's fine. So this is only pertaining to ICJ, by the way. All right, cool. Okay, I'm gonna speak about the references format in a bit. But let me just focus on the content of the position papers first. So that's the overall gist of a position paper: countries, delegates' position on a particular topic, and the delegates' research. Now let's move on to the specific format. Okay, so it has a position paper has a header. What's the header? Once we move further along, there'll be a sample position paper in this PPT itself. And in that, I can show you what the header looks like. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's the slide 27, if you move on. And then we can come back. Okay, so do you see on top delegation from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and then represented by American University of Sharjah? So that's the kind of header that we're looking for. Delegate from XYZ country represented by American University of Sharjah. So okay. Then we have the body. So the body of the position paper is basically going to be, well, your views on that particular topic. And that's where you talk about, okay, so the UAE, for instance, if I'm representing, okay, so I'm representing Saudi Arabia. I talk about, and so in the body you will include, you could include things that Saudi Arabia has done in the past. So Saudi Arabia has done XYZ in support of this particular cause in the topic. We are striving to do this, and we encourage, and then in the conclusion of the position paper, what you'll do is you will say, Saudi Arabia, for instance, over here. Okay, so in the conclusion of the position paper for that particular topic, you will say, we are looking forward to, so you'll talk about the future. We are looking forward to do this. We are actively involved in this. So you talk about what's Saudi, for instance, if I'm Saudi Arabia, I talk about what I'm intending on doing. So header, a brief intro, then you talk about what your country has done, where your country stands, how your country has responded to issues, and then you end with what your country is intending to do in the future. If you go back to slide 25, and you do, okay, before we move on to slide 25, we go back to slide 25, you have a one-page position paper for each topic. So over here, you'll see one for topic 1, and then you'll see one for topic 2. Okay, did we find the solutions on, okay. I will answer all questions in one go, but let me just go through the slide. Yes, so with regards to how much you should devote, so in the sample you just saw, you saw that the header, so there's a header, introduction, there's a body. You devote approximately 20%, so you devote a bit of para in the beginning with regards to the background. Then you go on to state your country's position, which should compose a good chunk. And then you move on to what your country intends to do. You can even call out for possible solutions. So for instance, Saudi Arabia encourages countries to do XYZ in order to combat this. So, maybe, this could also form ideas or baselines for your resolutions later on as well, because these are your country's views on what should be done. So background, country's position, possible solutions. And it's exactly as the format that I just showed you right now. The same sample position paper is also in the delegate handbook. Yeah, 1 page for each topic. The sample position paper is also in the delegate handbook in the appendix. So again, go ahead, take a look. Deadline, Feb 20th to the email. So in the welcome letter of the background guide. So, okay, number one, if you haven't checked out the background guide by now, please do so right after this call or right after your mock sessions. Please do go ahead, read and thoroughly read the background guide. And in the background guide, in the welcome letter towards the end, your chairs would have provided an email for you to get in touch with them. That's the email where you're supposed to send your position papers. By Feb 20th, 11 p.m., by the end of Feb 20th, it should have reached your chairs. So that's with regards to the deadline. Background guide on the AUSMUN website.
Julia, just 1 second. I think after, Julia, you're done with these slides, I will share my screen with the website and I'll show you guys exactly. We'll go through that once, okay? So don't worry about that. Thank you, Julia.
Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. 26, slide 26. Okay. Position paper, so the one I just showed you right now, it's about 2 pages. However, I could see that sometimes it could extend a bit because maybe you are using references and you want to properly reference all your sources. So because of those references, it could go a bit over 2 pages, that is fine. But in terms of content, your position paper should be no more than 2 pages. Standard format, so Times New Roman font, 12-point size, single spaced, 1-inch margins, justified paragraphs. Address, and it should address, so you will see that it's somewhat equally distributed. The sample that I just showed you, it's about 1 page for one topic, 1 page for the next topic. So that's what we mean by saying addressing both topics equally. Now citations. So that in the sample that I just showed you, so if you could go back to the sample on slide 27 in the next slide. Okay, so there are 2 ways you can go about this, and I'm leaving it open to you. In the sample, you will notice that what we did was we use footnotes to indicate the sources, and that follows something called the Chicago style of referencing, wherein you put numbers next to facts that you use, and then on Word you have a tool for footnotes, so you insert footnotes, and then you indicate the source that you used. And that's the Chicago style. So I hope that also answers a question about referencing that was answered earlier, that was asked earlier. So that's one option for you. You can follow the Chicago style, or as a university student, what I 99.9% of the time use is something called APA referencing. It could be simpler. Yeah, you can stick to APA, no problem. You can use APA. With APA, that means you may have to provide a separate reference page. So you will have 2 pages of content, and then you may need to provide a 3rd reference page. That's fine. APA is just basically a style of referencing. So I will delve into more details about what you can do for referencing in the forthcoming slides. What can I include in the header or the first paragraph of my position? So the header is basically what you see here, delegation from XYZ country on the left-hand side, represented by XYZ school or XYZ university on the right-hand side. So you see on the top left and top right corner of the first page, that's the header. Now in the first paragraph, in the first paragraph of your position paper, you basically provide a brief outline. So for example, in this position paper, you provide a brief outline of the topics. And say that this is what these are the 2 topics that are up for discussion, and this is the significance, etc., etc. Don't devote much, just a very brief introduction before you move on to your body. Harvard is fine. Okay, so basically my intention is when you're writing a position paper, there are 2 worst case scenarios that I have in mind, and that's what I want you to avoid, and that's why I'm giving you all these options for citations. Don't just simply copy paste website links, or worse, not copy pasting anything and having a position paper with no citation whatsoever. So these are the worst case scenarios that I want you to avoid. So in that, with that regards, Harvard, Chicago, APA, any formally recognized style of citation and referencing is fine, as long as you're consistent and you stick with it for both topics, and as long as it's proper. You can use Harvard, you can use APA, you can use Chicago, but don't please just simply copy paste links, because when you do that, there's no way for chairs to cross-check and validate whether, okay, did you actually use these sources? If you used it, where? Because it's just a link, I can't figure out where you used it. So yeah, please stick to one proper style of citation. Okay, I'm gonna go through the chat and look at some of the questions you guys have asked. Can it be my own writing using some evidence and supporting opinions? Own writing using, okay, so in the position paper, the position paper is gonna be a combination of facts and what you think your country thinks about those facts. Which means not every sentence in the position paper is going to be a fact. It's also going to be some of your input, and that's what chairs are looking to see as well, right? The chairs are looking to see what your views are based on your country's position and based on the facts. So yes, Ward, you can do that, but just please make sure to use, well, don't let it not be entirely your opinion. Do try to make sure you use proper evidence and proper facts in addition to your own opinions. If that makes sense. Must the position paper answer specific questions? Not really. So, so I've seen some delegates who use their position paper as a basis for their general speakers list, and that gives you an idea of the fact that the position paper is not specific to any. It's not specific. It doesn't answer specific questions, but it gives you this overarching view of the topics from the perspective of your committee and your topic, from the perspective of your committee and your country. So it doesn't need to answer any specific questions, but yeah, it needs to talk about things overall. Then let me see. Okay, scrolling up. Does grammar and proper English? Yes, please do try to follow grammar and proper English. The thing is, it doesn't reflect well. Like if a chair is looking at a position paper with poor grammar, even though it's well cited, well researched, well formulated, it just doesn't reflect well. So I think there are websites you can use, or there's spell check on Word. So, there are tools you can use, but try to revise before you submit it. And that should do the trick. Then let's see. Scrolling up. What can I include in the header? I answered that. APA. How long should the paper be? I did mention 2 pages, but if you are using APA, or if you take up an additional page because you're including references, that's fine, but 2 pages worth of content, that's the idea. Should we write AUS or our school? You should write your school. So this over here, it says represented by American University of Sharjah, then that would be replaced by the name of your school or your university. Okay. Do we include the solutions in the, so you can include some of the solutions that you're planning to introduce in the committee in the end. So you can say Saudi Arabia, for instance, I think Saudi Arabian government. Okay, so for instance, I think in this particular position paper, towards the end of the second topic, we talk about, okay, so efforts, regulatory steps, hold on, let me see, Saudi continues to Also, in the right at the very end, it says the kingdom hopes that the world can come together yet again to abolish this present-day slavery. So you can include that kind of phrases, right? So towards the end of the position of towards the end of one topic, you can talk about what you intend to see, what changes do you intend to see in the world, how can countries come together. You can include that kind of paragraphs and phrasing towards the end. But you don't. But position papers don't contain the resolutions. That's a no-no. Resolutions are a separate thing. Position papers before the conference, but resolutions you develop as you move along the conference. So it won't contain resolution clauses or anything, as you see in the sample. Okay. Where can I find the recording of this meeting at the end? Manasvi, would the recording be made available?
We will have to confirm with our faculty advisors before doing this, and we'll probably, if we do, we'll be able to upload it on the website or YouTube, and we'll email you with the link accordingly.
Okay. Which one should you furnish first? Position paper? Resolution is not something that you will work on your own. Resolution is something you'll work with allies, with other delegates during the conference. So you can research for possible clauses you can include in the resolution right now, but leave drafting the actual resolution for the conference, because you need to sit and talk with other delegates, and then you need to jointly arrive at a draft resolution. Position paper, yes, you can start working on it right now, because it needs to be submitted by 20th Feb, which is prior to the conference. So you have about 21 days to work on your position paper. And while you work on your position paper, of course, you'll be also on the side doing general research on your country. Everybody has to make a position paper, with the exception of ICJ. ICJ, as I just said, councils have to draft something called a memorandum, but we'll put up a sample for that on the website. So this applies to all committees, save for ICJ. How many words it must have max? Word limit is not what we're looking for. We're looking at the pages. So 2 pages worth of content, that's standard. 2 pages worth of content, that's in 12-point font, Times New Roman, single spaced. There will be no second delegate training workshop. If you have any specific questions, of course, you're encouraged to email me or Manasvi or one of the other board members if you have any specific questions. Do we go over the topics like describing the issue and using statistics? One more question. To my ally. Okay, so I'm going to answer the first bit because I think the second one relates to motions. So Ward asks, do we go over the topics like describing the issue and using statistics? Yes, that's basically more or less what you do. You describe, and you also so don't just describe saying this is what it is, this is what it is. Of course, you inject some of your own opinions as well into the position paper. And yes, do use statistics. Use statistics from good sources. So I think there are a list of do's and don'ts in the delegate handbook as well with regards to the research process. So don't go about using random news websites. Like for example, BBC, that's fine. The UN, that's a good source. World Bank, UN, IMF. Reputable NGOs, so Amnesty, Greenpeace. Organizations which are renowned, that's fine. Those are good sources you can use for statistics. And that's basically what you would do using in the position paper, yeah? Use statistics, but you also see where your country stands with regards to those facts. But your second question doesn't pertain to the position paper. I think it pertains to the conference, which is in the conference, can we attack points and delegates or just state a point and tell whether it's related to my ally? You can do both. Be diplomatic when you do it, of course. So if you're attacking another delegate, of course, be diplomatic about it. But AKA don't directly attack, subtly do it. But yeah, you can attack. You can do both. So you can state your point and tell why it agrees to another delegate, why it agrees with that of another delegate, and you can also attack a point that was mentioned by another delegate. So you can be, I mean, how do you put it? You can be friendly or unfriendly with specific delegates. That's fine. Bharth, I don't quite understand your question though, so help me out if I've answered it. Okay. If I cite using the APA format, does everything else have to be in that format? Title page is fine. I mean, you could include a title page, but title page is sort of optional. But yes, everything else. So everything that I mentioned sticks with the APA. Coincidentally, 12-point font, single spacing. References, yes. So if you're using APA, then you have to be consistent. Use APA for references as well. Hold on. ICJ judges. Okay, so I just need to cross-check and get back to you, but I believe ICJ judges don't have to prepare a memorandum. It's just for the counsels or the lawyers. So ICJ has lawyers and it has judges. The lawyers have to prepare a memorandum. And I'm saying this because I was a lawyer for ICJ, so I remember distinctly preparing a memorandum, and we'll upload a sample document on the website. Judges, as far as I know, don't need to prepare any document beforehand. Yeah, as far as I know, they don't need to prepare any document beforehand. Oh yes, you should send it to the chair on the email mentioned on the background guide. Background rights, I think Manasvi will run you through this once we end the session, but it's up there on the website, and Manasvi will guide you through where exactly to find the background guides on the website. A sample of a position paper for the Arabic committees. Okay, so Batul, we'll get back to you on that. So could you just send an email so that we can arrange a draft of the Arabic committee position paper?
Yes,
I think it's not
we
the Arabic handbook.
We can do that, and in a few after around 12, you will be put in a separate session with our deputy director for Arabic committees as well. So any specific Arabic related questions, he's the best person. He will answer everything for you. So don't worry. Yes.
All right, Uday Karan. Okay, thank you for verifying that fact. Yep, no, only judges don't need to write anything prior to the conference, but councils need to prepare memorandums. Okay, so I'm just gonna scroll up and see if there's anything that I forgot to address. Okay. All right, so I think that's everything so far. So I'm just gonna keep moving on. Manasvi, next slide. Okay, so this is what I talked, I already talked about this in the prior slides, but this is what Chicago style looks like with footnotes. So you will put numbers next to sources that you mentioned as superscripts, and then you will put those same numbers at the bottom in each page, and then you will write, and then you'll mention the authors, the title, followed by the year, and if there's a specific link, you'll insert that link as well. If you want the specifics of Chicago style, I would say you can go, there are plenty of websites online, or there are plenty of official websites online which mention the specifics. So if you want, you can look into that. That's what I want you to refrain from doing. So if you just copy paste the links, there's no way for chairs to figure out what source goes where. Okay, like maybe you just copy paste the link, but you never used it anywhere in your paper. So that's why I'm suggesting that you use some sort of referencing. So you could use APA, you could use Chicago style. Somebody mentioned Harvard. Anything is fine as long as there's some way for the chairs to see, okay, so this source was used here, this source was used here. You know, should we cite all references or some of them? Try to cite all. Okay, so maybe there are websites that you use to just get a general feel for a topic. So for instance, maybe you didn't use any specific statistic from Wikipedia, God forbid, but you went and read up on maybe you just read up on some of the past, your country's past history in Wikipedia. You don't intend to use anything specific from there, but you just read just to get an initial overall feel for the topic or your country. So that in that case, you don't need to cite Wikipedia. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to, unless you're using specific statistics, specific facts, specific past histories or incidents, etc. You don't need to cite. So if you're just reading something to get a general opinion, I wouldn't say you don't need to necessarily cite it. But apart from that, yeah, try to include references for everything, every fact, statistic, anything specific that you put. Okay. All right. So so this is what the Chicago style looks like. You can go online and Google it if you want the specifics. What about our notes? What notes? Bara, I didn't get your question. Okay, meanwhile, we can move on to slide 29. So I talked about Chicago style previously. As in take notes for this session, those that we take for our debate. Okay, so if you're just asking me about the whole process of compiling research, are you talking about that, like organizing and compiling your research?
I think that's what she's referring to, right? Your research, your background research for the session itself. Chicago freestyle.
Okay, so these are reference styles that you can you incorporate into your position paper. So I don't think there's any specific place you need to mention that. You don't, because you don't have to tell at the start of your position paper, hey, I'm using APR, I'm using Chicago. It's implied, it's understood. As long as you use one of them, Chicago, APA, someone mentioned Harvard, any officially recognized style of citation, that's fine by me. So I talked about Chicago earlier. So just a quick overview of APA. How APA works is, I think some of you are more familiar with APA, which is you put the author or the author's name in brackets along with the year in the actual position paper. And then in the end, for your references, you cite the full reference. So that's how APA works. You have in-text citations, the ones in red on top. And then at the bottom, you see that there's like a complete reference page with all your citations listed. And a website that I keep on referring to, even today. So if I have a paper and I want to just check if my APA formatting is good or if there are any mistakes, owl.purdue, Google it up. It offers a lot of resources with regards to APA. So if you're lost anywhere, you can refer to owl.purdue. Yes, so as long as you don't just copy paste the links. So you can use APA, you can use Harvard, just be consistent with whatever style you choose. And just so that it looks consistent and it looks well. So you have options. So this is how APA looks. I'm gonna quickly move on to the next slide, which is okay. So I believe that some of you, yeah, does the format apply for the whole paper? Yes. So if you, in the sense that if you choose Harvard for one topic, you can't choose APA for the other. You need to stick with one. Does that make sense, Worth? Okay, good. So if some of you may have trouble doing this manually, and for that, I suggest that there are websites you can use online. Just be careful because like websites may not always be correct, but this is one that I personally use, which is like CiteFast, which but there are also a bunch of other websites in which if you enter information about a source, it will generate the corresponding Chicago style or APA style references or footnotes in the case of Chicago. APA 6, APA 7, I don't remember the specific differences, honestly, but they're negligible. Whatever specific differences that they are, I've read about them in the past. It's barely there, it's negligible. Just stick to one. Use APA 7, just use APA 7 consistently. If you want to use APA 6, that's also fine by me. It's just, yeah, like I said, it's just a bit older, negligible differences. This website, you can use it for, so if you don't want to manually create references, There are websites. This is just one of many. There are a couple of websites you can use online, in which if you just put in information about your sources, it will generate. So on the right-hand side, you'll see it generates the corresponding the reference page format. Yeah, that's Citation Machine, that's CiteFast, there's a whole bunch of websites. Yeah, it is better to use it. So what like you can sense that my concern is I don't care if you use APA 6 or APA 7, as long as you use APA or some other kind of style of referencing. It's better to use APA 7, obviously, because it's latest, but you get what I'm saying. I'm more concerned about whether you use some sort of style rather than the version of style that you're using, especially since APA 6 and APA 7 has negligible differences. Okay, so I don't get what the Chicago style thingy is. It's just a format of referencing. So Sana, if you have any specific questions, I suggest that you get in touch with me via email, so research@ausmun.com. If you have any specific questions with regards to Chicago style itself, you can get in touch with me. But you do have the options of Chicago versus APA. It's just a style of referencing, basically. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go over other concerns that you may have during while researching for the conference. And this is a bit more based on my personal experience as well. So researching prior to the conference, you should look at the background guide, expand on what is said in the background guide, and read up on credible sources. And you should try to come up with, so you don't have to walk into a conference entirely unprepared on the possible moderator caucuses that could be brought up. So you can think about these things as you're researching, as you're doing your background research. You can think of possible moderator caucus topics that you can propose, so you can note those down. You can think of ideas for your operative conference clauses for the resolution. And so these are the kind of things that you need to keep in mind while you're doing your background research. And so that's just about researching as a whole. Something that keeps popping up, at least for me, I've dealt with this issue in the past, which is that if you, like when you're doing research, it looks to you that your country as such doesn't seem relevant to this issue, or you think that there's very little information available about your country with regards to that committee and that topic, and you feel like you can't find a lot of information. So in those cases, what I've personally found helpful is that it's okay if the internet doesn't offer you everything that you want on the silver platter. So like you type something, boom, you get this amazing link with everything that you need. In real world, it doesn't look that way. It doesn't work that way. And so what I would suggest is if you feel there's very little information available about that specific topic, just think broader. Think about related issues that your country has dealt with. Think about your country's overall stances. So for instance, in the delegate handbook, I mentioned that a situation such as if your topic is about, say, sustainable cities, but there's no specific information with regards to sustainable city and your committee and your country. Well, then check your country's stance on sustainable development as a whole. So you see where I'm going. If you feel there's very little information available, just broaden your research and try to find related topics, related issues that could apply. Then you could search a little bit differently on Google. Again, the delegate handbook, I mentioned a link to a website in which there are specific search tactics that you can actually use on Google. So if you put and, or if you put or, Google delivers search results differently, and these could make an impact when you're doing research on your topic. And then, yeah, I think organizing research is something somebody touched upon on the group, which is, can the research paper be unorganized, or is there someone who will be looking at my research paper? So Muin, I'm assuming you're talking not about the position paper, but about the background research that you're performing. No one's going to look at that. But in the handbook, I mentioned a few options for organizing your research digitally, just because I find that when delegates have a whole, for instance, I've seen some conferences in which delegates come up with this whole folder of printed out Wikipedia pages and articles, and there's about 20, 50, 100 pages all in this big chunky folder, it's going to be hard to flip through them when you're going through the debate, you know? And so I suggest that even if it's not going to be looked at, please do try to organize it, just because it's easier for you to navigate quickly when the debate is going on. So in case you need to check something or you need to prepare your speech, the better organized it is, the more easier it will be for you during the actual conference. Guys, please refrain from spamming the chat, because I'm looking for specific questions. So that's it with regards to researching for the conference, and I spoke about the position paper and specific style of citations. Okay, so it's 12 p.m. already. Are there any specific remaining questions?
I think if there are any specific questions, they can either email us or we can even ask in the breakout rooms. It's completely fine. We are still around, don't worry. The moderators and pages have started flowing in. I don't know if you guys can see the numbers increasing. Hi, all of you. Very excited to have you here. Before we send you all into breakout rooms, we just want to show you the website so you're not lost. So let me start sharing again, because right now I'm only sharing the screen, the chat, sorry, the slides. So I'm sharing my entire screen now. Welcome to my desktop and welcome to my WhatsApp apparently, so that's nice. All right, so you go to AUSMUN.com. All right, so this is our website. This is our wonderful team. Wait, where is our wonderful team? Yes, this is our team. And here, if you go to conference details, you'll see all your topics and the theme and the committees. And if you go to background guides, you'll see all the background guides here. Okay, so each background guide has been crafted by the authors of the specific committee for you. We have a lot of detail over here. There's a lot of effort that has gone into this, especially from the moderators and the research team that has been led by Julia. And they have really, really made sure that this is concise and as informative as possible for you. So please make sure to go over this. Now see, if you go to the background guide, you will see emails like this towards the end of the background guide. Make sure that you submit your position paper here. So this is where you have to submit your position paper, and that's there for each committee. All right. Now there's the Arabic handbook, Arabic committee guide as well, and the Arabic delegate handbook as well. I'll open the English one. This is the delegate handbook that we have been referring to the entire day today. So this has also been very carefully crafted for you by me and Julia together, and we have made sure that you have almost everything that you require. This entire session is compiled into this particular guide as well. So everything is here. So please make sure to take a look at this. There are a lot of guidelines. This is extremely important to make sure you submit correctly. So really, please go through all of this. And there are a few sources as well that have been suggested. Literally everything you require is on our website. So please, please, please go through these documents before you join the conference and really use it to your advantage. And we've mentioned the awards here as well. All right. And of course, code of conduct, and you have sample position papers. This is the these are the charts that were there in the presentations as well. This is a sample resolution, the clauses, and this is today's session. And this is our tentative schedule for AUSMUN 2021. So please take a look at this document. Everything you need is here, and we will be sharing more information with you via email regarding the Slack platform that I mentioned before. Don't worry about it. Everything will be sent to you, and you always can reach us on email, me and Julia. If you have any questions, if you want to reach me and Julia, send us both an email, no problem at all. So yeah, that is it for the website. Also, I would like to suggest that you all check out YouTube, where we have an AUSMUN channel. Let me just show you guys that before we move into the before we move into the mock sessions. So we have a few videos that were made by our 2019 board. Of course, these are not, we have adapted now and we've made everything online, but to get a better idea, if you want, of points and motions or how to research or any mock session, you can take a look at this and you can think about it from the perspective of an online conference. So there are a few videos that are very helpful. Please take a look at that if you require. And that is it from me. All right. So Al-Zabi, um, I think we will give everyone a 5-minute break. So it's 12:05. Yeah, it's 12:05. So if we can wait till 12:10, by that time, Al-Zabi will send you guys into breakout rooms.
Okay, but please don't leave the session as I am organizing the breakout rooms.
I would say if you have any specific remaining questions, either A, you can ask your chairs, which are going to be in the breakout rooms, or B, you can email us directly, because we're going to be moving into mock sessions in a short period.
If anyone has any questions, meanwhile, you are free to drop them in the chat. I think Maz asks a great question. Will you make, is that Maz that asked the question? Will you make a mock online session video as well? Well, we hope that the session that you're going to go into now in the breakout rooms will be that mock online session, but we can try and make a video and upload it. We'll let you know if we do that. Well, it's amazing that you finished the first draft. That's great. I think the moderators are looking forward to see this. Hi, Ahmed. How are you doing today?
Hi, Manasvi. Hi, Julia. Hello, everyone.
I'm just going to make all the moderators today into... Can all the moderators please raise their hands so they all show up and I can make you guys, what's it called? Co-hosts? Yeah, perfect. After I make you co-host, just bring your hand down. Nasir, just raise your hand down so I don't get confused. Yes, pages as well. Sorry for not mentioning that. All right. Did I make everyone? Okay, guys, please lower your hands if your co-hosts are ready. The entire session ends at 2 p.m., so including the mock session. So you guys will be sent into breakout rooms soon. Yes, in the breakout rooms, you can open your mic and really will be able to talk and run a whole session. So you can be involved and become friendly.
Okay, Bharat, I think you asked whether the position paper is what you're gonna say or it's just a sample of our topics. I wouldn't call it a sample of I wouldn't call it a sample of your topics. I'm gonna stick with the first one, which is it's okay. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say either. It's going to represent your view. So in some sense, yes, you can use aspects of your position paper in your speeches. That's something delegates frequently do, which is you tend to base maybe your GSL and maybe certain moderator caucus speeches based on aspects of your position paper. That's completely fine. So in that ways, yes, it can represent what you're gonna say. But I wouldn't say it's a sample of your topics. I don't know if that sentence makes sense. But I hope I answered your question. Right? Okay.
Okay, Sarah is left to make host. Perfect. I think everyone has gotten a bit of a break by now. So, Al-Zabi, are we ready?
Yes, we're ready. We can start now.
Okay, then open the rooms. Hi, everyone that's left on over here. Please join the breakout rooms. If you haven't got the invitation, let us know and we'll try to send you in again. Amar, Hanan, Michael, Mariam, what's happening, you guys? Al-Zabi, can we add Sadin? Okay, wait, I think I can do that. Where is Sadin?
I think I added her to one of the rooms. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, even I'm searching for her.
Mm,
Sadhan, which room are you in right now? Do you know? Amar, don't worry. We'll add you.
She should be in room 4. Yeah, she should be joining room 4.
Sadhan? Okay. And what about Amar?
Ammar, no, I didn't assign him yet. Also, there is, I think, another delegate called Raja.
Okay.
She should be joining room 4 as well.
And Muhammad Ali? May I?
He is a faculty advisor, if I'm not
Nice.
mistaken. Yeah.
Awesome. Wait, Sadhan is back here.
Also, Qasayed did not join room 3, so she should be joining room 3.
Yeah, I think she. Oh no, Sadhan's still here.
And Hanan should be joining room 5.
Hi Hanan, did you get the request to join the room? Wait, I think Sadhan wanted to go to the Arabic committee, but she went to room 4. So
Okay. Yeah, I think.
wait, I moved her to Arabic. I think
Okay.
I think I did it. Wait. Wait, can we just check? Yes, Sadhan Hassan. Yes. Okay. Only Hanan is left here then?
Yes, so she should be, I think.
Hello?
Hi Hanan.
Hi.
Did you get the request to join the breakout room?
Yes. No.
Okay, wait. Zabi, let's check
She
what's
joined
up.
room 5.
Which room?
Room 5.
Okay, let's unassign her and assign her again.
Okay.
Okay, wait, we'll just move her to, I'll just move her to ICJ for now, and then I'll move. Hanan, don't accept that. And can you accept that? Did you get that?
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Perfect.
Does Mr. Muhammad Ali also want to go to one of the rooms and see the sessions?
I think, okay, he's the advisor, I think, of Emirates American School. If I'm not mistaken, we can assign him to the Arabic committee because he usually teaches his students, for the Arabic committee. And so yeah, I'll assign him to the Arabic committee.
All right, of course.
Okay, perfect. I assign him to the Arabic committee. We have a delegate. Okay. Right. I'll assign.
Hi, manager. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. We've just sent everyone into mock sessions. May I confirm which committee you are in for AUSMUN?
I am in UNHCR.
UNHCR. Okay. So Zabi, we can send her to either 4 or 5.
I
Yeah,
sent.
I'm going to 4.
Yeah, she's going.
Bye.
Okay. Where's Julia?
She's in ICJ.
Okay, great. Good job, you guys. Everything went so well.
Dude, can you? Okay, can I stop recording because it's only going to record this part? Yeah,
Yeah.